صلواتي اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري قال أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء الجمالي فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء الجمالي فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء. فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء. فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء. قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصيتي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتك أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على. فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جميع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جميع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجه. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد.
What are you going to say? Dua.
Alhamdulillah. Ruko. Bismillah.
Okay, go ahead.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Magi ummidi yakna abdu ikina siratal mustaqim alayhim talayhim wala zali.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Okay. Very good. थोड़ा सा skip किया मैं वो फिर से कर.
Let me go to fix it, bro. Assalamu alaikum. Today is the 8th of Muharram. During these days, we remember Imam Hussein and his family and the companions who stood for truth, justice, and faith. As the days of Muharram passed, the difficulties in Karbala became greater. Water was no longer available to the camp of Imam Hussein. The children became very thirsty, but they remained patient and trusted Allah. One of the lessons we learn from Karbala is patience. Even when things are difficult, we should remain honest, kind, and faithful. We should also learn to help others, especially those who are in need.
Salawat. In Karbala, the children in the camp were very thirsty because there was no water. Hazrat Abbas could not bear to see the children suffering. He barely went to bring water from the river for them. Even though he faced many difficulties, he never gave up. Hazrat Abbas teaches us many important lessons. Be loyal to what is right. Help others when they need us. Be brave in difficult situations. Keep our promises. Always obey Allah and respect our parents and elders. Children love Hazrat Abbas because he cared for them and tried to help them. We should also care for our brothers, sisters, and friends and everyone around us. Let us remember Hazrat Abbas and try to follow his example every day by being kind, truthful, helpful, and generous. Salawat. Nare Haidari. Nare Haidari. Nare Haidari.
صلوات بر محمد و آل محمد. یہ ایک سلام ہے جو میرے چچا نے لکھا تھا بہت عرصہ پہلے، اسی کو میں ہر سال پڑھتا ہوں. آواز نہیں آ رہی ہے کیا صاف؟ اچھا تھینک یو. صلوات بر محمد و آل محمد. روح فرسا کتنی ہے تیری کہانی اے حسین، اور کر دیا پتھر دلوں کو جس نے پانی اے حسین. اور غیر فانی حق پہ قرباں ہو کر خود حق بن گیا، اور بن گیا اب ذکر تیرا غیر فانی اے حسین. اور تیری مظلومی ہے اب بھی دل کی فاتح ہر جگہ، اور ظلم ہے شرم و حیا سے پانی پانی اے حسین. کیا کشش ہے درد کی دنیا سمٹ کر آ گئی، اور غم کا مرکز بن گئی تیری کہانی اے حسین. اور تیرے غم میں کون ایسا ہے جو رویا نہیں کہ زمین و آسمان نے نوح خوانی اے حسین. تو ہے مجھ سے میں ہوں تجھ سے اس نبی کے قول کی، تو ہے کردار نبی کی ترجمانی اے حسین. اور تیری زینب اور عابد کی زبانیں صبر میں، اور کربلا سے شام تک ہے فتح خوانی اے حسین. اور ظلم کے شعلوں کو صادق تاب کے دیکھا کیے، اور پھر چھڑک دو آگ پہ خنجر کا پانی اے حسین. اور روح فرسا کتنی ہے تیری کہانی اے حسین، اور کر دیا پتھر دلوں کو تو نے پانی اے حسین. صلوات پر محمد.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. ایک ربائی پیش کرتا ہوں، اس کے بعد ایک چھوٹا سلام نجمہ افندی کا پیش کروں گا حضرت عباس کی شان میں. جہان عشق و محبت کا آئینہ عباس. جہان عشق و محبت کا آئینہ عباس. کمال عزم و عمل پے کرے وفا عباس. لبے فرات وہ جوہر دکھا دیے تو نے، لبے فرات وہ جوہر دکھا دیے تو نے. علی کی روح پکاری کہ مرحبا عباس. جہان عشق و محبت کا. بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. یہ ایک سلام ہے جناب نجم افندی کا جو کہ حضرت عباس کی شان میں ہے، اور اس میں ترجمانی کی انہوں نے کہ حضرت عباس ہر آدمی کے نمائندے بن کے گئے تھے رن میں. تو ملاحظہ کیجیے. کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا، خون میں ڈوبی ہوئی تصویر حیدر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا. شیر سے بپھرے ہوئے جاتے ہیں دریا کی طرف، شیر سے بپھرے ہوئے جاتے ہیں دریا کی طرف، دوش پر بکھری ہوئی زلف معنبر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس. چشم خون آلود میں اشک سکینہ کی تری، چشم خون آلود میں اشک سکینہ کی تری، لال لب پر خشکیے لب ہائے اصغر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا. نبض کی رفتار زینب کا مسلسل اضطراب، نبض کی رفتار زینب کا مسلسل اضطراب، دل کی دھڑکن جنبش گیسوئے اکبر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا. چہرہ پر نور پر زردی رخ سجاد کی، چہرہ پر نور پر زردی رخ سجاد کی، چین ابرو میں غم سبط پیمبر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور. دوش پر اسلام کی عزت نشان فوج حق، دوش پر اسلام کی عزت نشان فوج حق، مشق ایک سوکھی ہوئی دل کے برابر دیکھنا، اور راہ کر لی خون کے دریا کا سینہ چیر کر، ایک ہی حملے میں نہر القمہ پر دیکھنا، اور مشق بھر کر نہر سے باہر نکلنا تشنہ لب، مشق بھر کر نہر سے باہر نکلنا تشنہ لب، خیمہ شبیر کی جانب وہ مڑ کر دیکھنا، دیکھ کر چہرے تصور میں وہ مرجھائے ہوئے، دور تک پھیلی ہوئی پانی کی چادر دیکھنا، اور ہر طرف سے ہٹ کے وہ مشق سکینہ پر نظر، ہر طرف سے ہٹ کے وہ مشق سکینہ پر نظر، یہ امانت دے کر یلغار لشکر دیکھنا، تیر پڑنا بے کسوں کی آخری امید پر، تیر پڑنا بے کسوں کی آخری امید پر، خون سا بہتا ہوا پانی زمیں پر دیکھنا، یک بیک دنیا بدل جانا امید و بیم کی، اپنے بازو دیکھنا قاتل کا خنجر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا، نجم وہ جان وفا ہے وہ ایمان وفا، یہ علم آتا ہے کس کے خون میں تر دیکھنا، خون میں ڈوبی ہوئی تصویر حیدر دیکھنا، کربلا میں شان عباس دلاور دیکھنا، بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ یہ علم رہتا ہے ہر دولہ بیدار کے پاس، یہ علم رہتا ہے ہر دولہ بیدار کے پاس، حمزہ کے کبھی جعفر طیار کے پاس، ایک مدت یہ رہا حیدر کرار کے پاس، بعد کربل یہ ہے عباس علمدار کے پاس، آج بھی پیاسی سکینہ کا بھرم زندہ ہے، غور سے دیکھیے غازی کا علم زندہ ہے، غور سے دیکھیے غازی کا علم زندہ ہے، یہ علم رہتا ہے۔ درود بر محمد و آل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔
فاتحہ۔ جب کٹ گئے دریا پہ علمدار کے بازو، جب کٹ گئے دریا پہ علمدار کے بازو، شانوں سے جدا ہو گئے جرار کے بازو، ریتی پہ گرے شاہ کے غم خار کے بازو، تھرانے لگے سید ابرار کے بازو، رنگ اڑ گیا تصویر علم ہو گئے شبیر، صدمہ یہ ہوا ذوف سے خم ہو گئے شبیر، صدمہ یہ ہوا ذوف سے خم ہو گئے شبیر، اکبر سے کہا کر دو غریبا میرا پارا، ہم سوگ میں ہیں قتل ہوا شیر ہمارا، عاشق میرے بچوں کا زمانے سے سدھارا، فرما کے یہ حضرت نے امام کو اتارا، آفت میں پھنسی پانی کی محتاج سکینہ، بس ہو گئی دنیا میں یتیم آج سکینہ، بس ہو گئی دنیا میں یتیم آج سکینہ، فرما کے یہ گرتے ہوئے دوڑے شاہ والا، سنبھلے کبھی خود اور کبھی اکبر نے سنبھالا، تھا سینہ اقدس میں کلے جاتا ہو بالا، چلاتے تھے ہائے میری آغوش کا پالا، آگے کبھی چلتے کبھی پھر پڑتے تھے شبیر، گھبرا کے ہر ایک لاش پہ گر پڑتے تھے شبیر، گھبرا کے ہر ایک لاش پہ گر پڑتے تھے شبیر، حضرت کو سنبھالے ہوئے دریا پہ جو لائے، عباس علمدار سے سکتے نظر آئے، اکبر نے کٹے ہاتھ تڑپتے ہوئے پائے، بھائی کو خدا بھائی کا لاشا نہ دکھا، بھائی کو خدا بھائی کا لاشا نہ دکھا، جھکنے جو لگے کانپ کے
غش کر گئے شابیر ثابت علی اکبر پہ ہوا مر گئے شابیر چلائے بسد غم میرے بھائی کیا دل کا ہے عالم میرے بھائی کیوں چشم ہے پر نم میرے بھائی اکھڑا ہے تیرا دم میرے بھائی سینے میں اجل سانس ٹھہرنے نہیں دیتے ہچکی تمہیں اب بات بھی کرنے نہیں دیتی گھبرا کے سوئے خیمہ لگے دیکھنے سرور دیکھا جو چلی آتی ہے سر پیٹتی دختر دیکھا کہ چلی آتی ہے سر پیٹتی دختر زلفیں تو ہیں بکھری ہوئی ٹوپی نہیں سر پر جو روکتا ہے کہتی ہے گھبرا کے وہ مستر لوگوں تمہیں کیا کچھ میرے بہشتی کی خبر ہے بتلا دو مجھے بحر خدا نہر کدھر بتلا دو مجھے بحر خدا نہر کدھر ہے لاش پہ ابا ڈال کے شبیر پکارے کیوں گھرگ سے نکل آئی میں قربان تمہارے کیوں گھر سے نکل آئی میں قربان تمہارے گھبرا کے سکینہ نے کہا پیاس کے مارے حضرت نے کہا بھائی تو دنیا سے سدھارے میں تم کو اسی واسطے سمجھاتا تھا رو کر تم ڈھونڈنے آئی ہو میرے بھائی کو کھو کر تم ڈھونڈنے آئی ہو میرے بھائی کو کھو کر سر پیٹ کے ہاتھوں سے وہ چلائی وہ بے پر دکھلا دو مجھے لاشائے ابا سے دلا دکھلا دو مجھے لاشائے ابا سے دلاور اکبر نے کہا روکے نہ مانے گی وہ دل بر حضرت نے کہا لاشائے عباس دکھا کر پانی کی تمنا میں ہزاروں سے لڑے ہیں لو دیکھ لو یہ شیر سے عباس پڑے ہیں لو دیکھ لو یہ شیر سے عباس پڑے ہیں جب کٹ گئے دریا پہ درود بر محمد و آل محمد
السلام علیکم مومنین بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم آج ہم لوگ 8 محرم کے توسط سے حضرت عباس کا غم منائیں گے. This will be Maulana's 9th lecture today of the series and we will be commemorating Hazrat Abbas inshallah. We were expecting a larger crowd today but inshallah people will possibly come a little bit later. We do want everybody to be here on time. We expect to start on time. Maulana is usually on the minbar by 8 o'clock. Just a few announcements. We will be announcing the program for Ashura and Shab-e Ashur and the day of Ashura actually tonight. Hopefully we'll send out the message with the program, with the timings. For Shab-e Ashur we'll be open all night for Zaireen to come visit the Imam Bargah. For day of Ashur we'll have Fajr Majlis for Azan Ali Akbar Fajr time. Then we'll have Amal around noon time and then we'll have the Ashur program starting at about after Zohrain, about 2:30. For Sham-e Gharima, we'll collect again after Maghribain, and the congregation actually goes out in a julus formation outside Janabiya, as our tradition has been, and inshallah follow that as well, and end that with Faqa Shikni on day of Ashur. So you'll see that program with timings. Please try to be on time so we can keep to our plans. We also wanted to again remind you of the fundraising and the membership drive we're having these days. We have forms in the back where you can fill out your name and contact information for us to contact you for being members here. For fundraising, we are accepting cash donations, check and Zelle payments. If you have anything to donate towards Zanabiya's cause, please approach any one of us. Tawqir is here, myself, Arshad Bhai is here, Tawsif is here. We can all we'll be happy to accept your donations on Zainabiya's behalf. And with that, I'm going to announce Maulana Rizwan Rizvi and ask him to please come and recite tonight's Majlis with a loud salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Please recite another Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of tonight's sponsors. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As announced, this is the 8th Majlis of Muharram al-Haram and 9th in this series of Majalis that began from Chandrat under the topic of unity. We've been reciting this ayat from Surah Al Imran, ayat number 103, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the mu'mineen by commanding them to hold on to the rope of Allah, all in congregation, and to not cause any sort of discord and disunity, And remember the favors of Allah onto you at a time when you were enemies of one another. And Allah united your hearts with His ni'mat and His favors. Alhamdulillah, with this ayat, we've been able to explore various different aspects of unity. We were able to understand the ayat in details, the tafsir of the ayat, shan-e-nuzul of the ayat, the reason for revelation, context of revelation. And we were able to highlight a few masadiq and manifestations of this unity. Amongst them, of course, is Quran, as Allah says, Hablullah al-Mateen. The one that it is, this Quran, is the habl of Allah, the rope of Allah. We also concluded that our Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is also amongst the manifestations of Hablullah. And after that, we concluded last night as well that the Ahlul Bayt are also the other end of this rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there's a possibility that someone might just hold on to Quran, saying that it is one of the ropes to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some might only follow the Prophet and neglect Quran. Or when we say Prophet, we actually mean Muhammad wa al Muhammad, meaning Prophet and his al, the Ahlul Bayt. So there's a possibility someone focuses entirely on Ahlul Bayt and neglects Quran. And there's a party that is a possibility who only goes for Quran and says nothing else is needed. We also refuted this concept as to how both of these they go hand in hand. And one is not mukammil without the other. Quran is samit, quiet, and there's a possibility that Quran could be misused, misconstrued, and used to one's advantage, and therefore could be misleading. Hence, you need someone, a guided one, أَفَمَنْ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعَ, that the one who has already been given this guidance to go ahead and provide that understanding as to how this Quran should be a guide for one. And the examples are, of course, something which is very obvious. We don't need to reiterate those examples. Just the fact that we have so many acts of worship that are mentioned in Quran, only the title is mentioned. And the incomplete nature of the ibadat that are discussed in Quran. And they're not mentioned with details. Therefore, if you were to say Quran is the only guide, then we will be in a big trouble that we would not know how to perform many of these acts of worship. I gave an example, some new faces, so I'll repeat those examples. Just like salat. You know, salat, Quran says, Aqimus salat, establishes the hukum of salat. Tarafiyat, it talks about the timings of salat as well. It says, Salatul Fajr, kana mawqut, and it refers to Salatul Fajr, the importance of it. Mentions Salatul Wusta and the importance of that. Talks about the different times of prayers, but not once does it mention how to actually offer this salat. That act which is so fundamental in our madhab that we pray 5 times a day. An act of worship which is not omitted under any circumstance. Even if you're sick, you still have to offer your prayer. When you're sick, you don't have to fast. When you're unable physically, you don't have to go do hajj. When you don't have the means, you don't have to pay zakat or khums. But when it comes to salat, there's no when you're not this, when you're not that. The only time when you're not able to pray is when you're unconscious. Only then it is, of course, you can't do anything about it. But aside from that, when you are in your hosh and hawas, and you're awake, you have to offer salat. Even if you're laying down, you have to pray. You cannot sit up, you have to pray. All of those are mentioned, but not in Quran, nowhere in Quran. So that leads you to believe that Quran will not be sufficient of that rope towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the ways of us to attain that prosperity, that sa'adat that we are sent to understand and attain, is via these ibadat. But if the method of performing this ibadat is not mentioned, imagine, Prophet didn't teach us, and everybody was doing ibadat according to their understanding. And they would be praying however they wanted, and they would be praying in whatever direction they wanted, they would be praying at whatever time they wanted. Then it would be a chaotic situation. Therefore, the fact that Prophet explained it, now you are in need of this second rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Along with that Quran, the second rope then becomes so much important. And so that's just one example. Again, you can, qiyas ala hadha, qis ala hadha, you can go ahead and do and look at all the other acts of ibadat which are just mentioned by name in Quran, and the details are not mentioned. When it comes to our aqaid even, while Quran speaks about the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it speaks about the khaliqiyyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it speaks about the raziqiyyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, talks about the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet the depths of tawheed, the understanding of the sifat and the zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mentioned in details. Who do we learn that from? The Prophet of Islam taught us all of that. So therefore we understand these two are hand in hand. Again, this is something which is repeated. I'm just bringing you back to what we concluded in the previous nights. What I want to focus tonight on, as these nights, inshallah, we want to spend more and more time in Girya wa Zari, in mourning and paying homage to Ahlul Bayt and the tragedy that is upon them. But in order to utilize this opportunity to conclude our discussions, inshallah, is to look at the root and also understand the time from which ikhtilaf and disputes came about. Do these disputes, are they very recent? Are you saying that in the time of Imam Hadir, disputes weren't there? Is this only the product of Imam Ghaib? Are you saying that in the time of Rasulullah, disputes weren't there? What is the understanding regarding that? No, nobody's denying. History books are filled with it, that disputes arose even in the time of Rasulullah. But they were removed because a single authority was there. Nobody could dare challenge Rasulullah, no matter how much they wanted to. But nobody could dare challenge Rasulullah. A dispute would come about, they will bring it to Rasul, Rasul will go ahead and solve it, and they had no other choice but to say, Sama'an wa ta'atan, and dispute would end there. But there wasn't the case that, disputes did not come about amongst those Jalilul Qadr ashab of Rasulullah. So for example, one of the examples in the history that you find both in ours and theirs is the expedition of Bani Qurayza. I'm not going to go into the conflict itself of Bani Qurayza, but one of the things that Rasulullah had uttered at that time, he said, La yusalliyanna ahadukum al-asra illa fi Bani Qurayza. I don't want any one of you to pray Asr except in Bani Qurayza, in the land of Bani Qurayza. Of course, this battle, or as our president will say, this skirmish happened, or conflict, different names have been given for the past 3 months now. This happened after the battle of trenches, Khandaq. After that battle, the event of Bani Qurayza happens. Again, a reminder, those who are able to read Urdu, Maulana Marhum Maulana Tilmiz had compiled a book called Ghazwatul Mursaleen. So Ghazwatul Sayyidul Mursaleen. It's basically a compilation of all of the Ghazwat of Rasulullah in a book which is 300 pages long. Available, PDF is available on his website, tilmiz.com. You can go and read that book, download it, and use it. And if you need a hard copy, you can contact me for that as well. But you'll find the details of all of these, ghazawat that took place that you rarely hear about. And tonight you're not going to hear much about it either. I'm just going to be mentioning it. Rasulullah said, "La yusalliyanna ahadukum al-asra illa fi Bani Qurayza." You should not pray Asr except in Bani Qurayza. Some people took it literally. Some ashab said, Rasulullah means we cannot offer salat. And therefore they waited until they got to Bani Qurayza. Sun had already set. Namaz had become qada. Then they offered their salatul asr. The other group, who understood that this was only a metaphoric instruction of Rasulullah, the urgency to get to Bani Qurayza. Meaning when you say, I want you to pray your next prayer in that land. Meaning what? Hurry up. Quickly move so that you don't get delayed. They realized Rasulullah wanted us to get there as soon as possible. They said, no, we can still pray right here in wherever we are because the time of namaz is going to expire. So they went ahead and prayed, and that's when they got to Bani Qurayza. The matter was presented to Rasulullah, conflict between the ashab. Rasulullah did not condemn any one of them based on their understanding, and Rasulullah said, it's okay. Because one of you took this in one way, the other one took it in the other way. And at the end of the day, we accomplished what we wanted to. But this could have been, for example, a big dispute amongst the Muslimin, and that could have led to, these differences start from something very common, basic, and then it becomes a snowball. Number two, the distribution after the Battle of Hunain. Again, a battle that you want to study. This was a battle which probably brought the most amount of, spoils of war. Thousands of camels and horses were captured in the Battle of Hunain. So what did Rasulullah do? In Battle of Hunain, afterwards, there are ashab who are referred to as ashabul me'ah. Those who were given the war booty or the spoils of war in hundreds. Hundreds. Some of them received hundreds of camels. So that person who received 100 camels was called ashabul me'ah. Now let me make you understand so what 100 of camels? A camel at that time is kind of like your, top class car today. Mercedes, for example. So if imagine getting one Mercedes as opposed to getting 100 Mercedes, right? So it was a big deal. It did not go unnoticed because camels at that time were not only just a means of riding. They were so much more. It was the entire livelihood of an individual depended on one. Imagine some of them getting 100. And there were some people amongst them who were wealthy already, but they still received hundreds of these camels and other animals. So a dispute came about. Majority who got these Ashabul Me'ah were from Quraysh, were from Makkah. They were the residents of Makkah. Ansar from Medina, they were disheartened. So Rasulullah, we're not bragging, but we provided for you. You migrated to our land. We took care of you. This became your home. You excelled in your propagation from this very land. We stood by you when you were weak. And now when the time comes to go ahead and distribute, you did not deal with na'udhu billah justice, right? So Rasulullah responded by saying the reason he has done that is for talif qalb, meaning to bring the hearts of those Qurayshi, those people from Makkah, who were not too long ago were against us. By giving them in large amount, I'm basically trying to keep them from revolting against us. Because there's a possibility amongst them were the Abu Sufyans, right? They were amongst the recipients of these. So therefore, by giving them a lot, I'm going to keep them loyal. And number two, if this was not enough satisfactory answers for these people, Ansar, Rasulullah says, what would you rather have? Hundreds of camels or Rasulullah? So of course, there's no debate. We'd rather have Rasul. Rasulullah said, I'm going to stay with you. I'm not going to stay in Makkah. These camels and the spoils of war will stay with these people, yet you have Rasul amongst you. So therefore, be proud of the fact that I choose to live amongst you and I will die amongst you as well. So Rasulullah was able to what? Settle that dispute that came about after the Battle of Hunain. Number 3, Battle of, or the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. You remember that famous Hudaybiyah treaty? Rasulullah marches back towards Mecca to go ahead and perform Umrah. Some mention Hajj, some mention Umrah. And they were stopped at the outskirts of the city of Mecca. A delegation goes back and forth, communication. They were told, turn back and come back next year. You're not allowed to perform the Umrah this year. But we have a peace treaty between the kuffar and the mushrikeen of Mecca and Muslimin. For 10 years, we will put down our arms upon each other. This was a great victory. That is the reason the other day when I read the ayat of Surah Fath, I said, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Some believe is actually for Sulh Hudaybiyah, not for Fateh Makkah. Because this was the biggest victory that led to Fateh Makkah. So therefore, Allah revealed Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina after Sulh Hudaybiyah and not necessarily after Fateh Makkah. Iza ja'a nasrullahi wal fath was revealed for that surah for Fateh Makkah. But this is over here. But you all remember, it's a history lesson. Many amongst the followers of Rasulullah started doubting him. They questioned, how dare these kuffar can dictate, we are now big enough power to go in and perform our wajib. Why is Rasulullah listening to them? A dispute amongst them came about, and of course Rasulullah was able to resolve that as well. Now, many hearts may have not been satisfied, but again, a single authority was there to take care of this dispute that existed. We are getting a pattern, aren't we? That you need that single authority somewhere in order to resolve these sort of disputes when they come about. Last example in this regard is the Thursday calamity, Raziyatul Khamis. And of course, I don't really know if this example is good enough or not, but there was a dispute. Rasulullah on his deathbed, he asks that, "I'tuni biqalamin wa qirtas aktub lakum shay'an lan tadillu ba'di." Bring me pen and paper, I'll write something for you, and after which you will not go astray. And of course, the famous slogan, Hasbuna Kitabullah, was raised at that time, and there was a dispute amongst the ashab, to the extent that Rasulullah said, Qumu inni, Qumu anni. Get up and leave. I don't want this dispute over here. So one way of dealing with the dispute was to just squash it over there and say, no, I don't want you over here. And they all left. But of course, there were long-lasting effects of it. Again, a single authority was there to go ahead and get rid of the disputes that came about. Here, I present you 4 examples for you that happened in the time of Rasulullah. The disputes came about and how Rasulullah was able to resolve them. So discord and disunity and disputes were always there, even in the time of Rasulullah. They became even more. Guess what? After the wafat and the demise of Rasulullah. For example, right after the wafat of Rasulullah, the biggest dispute is what? Saqifa Bani Saida, right? You have the Ansar and Muhajirin gathered at a place called Saqifa to go ahead and decide about the leadership of Muslim Ummah. While you have Ahlul Bayt and many companions of Rasulullah staying with Amirul Mu'mineen, taking care of the last rituals of Rasulullah. A dispute that came, and unfortunately a dispute that still remains as far as the leadership after Rasulullah is concerned. Of course, there was no single authority at that time in the form of Rasulullah to go ahead and remove this dispute and to go ahead and say who is right and who is wrong and what course you should follow. Again, I'm not going to go in the depths of that. Second dispute that you see after the wafat of Rasulullah is Fadak, where we see the Khalifatul Muslimin, he says this property is not anyone's property, and he usurps it. To the extent when Janab Sayyidah went for her haqq, what was said to her? Prophet have said, Nahnu ma'ashirul anbiya la nuwarrith. We, the class of Anbiya, we do not leave behind any virasat. To which, of course, Janab Sayyida had presented the ayat of Quran. وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانَ دَاوُود, that Suleiman inherited from Dawood. What did he inherit? Then they disputed, he inherited not the physical things, rather he inherited the ilm of Dawood. Then recited the ayat of Surah Maryam regarding Hazrat Zakaria and Hazrat Maryam. There where the discussion of Virathat is discussed. Of course, they had no answer to any of that. Even when Amir al-Mu'mineen stood up to go ahead and say to the Khalifa, who was the judge at that time, who was not accepting any of the defendants, witnesses, Imam said, imagine if you have something in your possession and you take it away. Who should be bringing the bayyana? Who should be bringing the evidence? The one who had it in their possession, or the one who took it away should be bringing? You should be providing bayyana and evidence to Sayyida that it belongs to you. She should not have to provide any evidences. But anyway, this dispute came about, remained unresolved, right? These are the examples that I'm giving now. 4 examples before were resolved. Examples that are being given now, because lack of that central authority, are not being resolved. That happens. Disputes arise and they remain unresolved. Number 3, the refusal to give zakat. Another issue that came about after the wafat of Rasulullah was that many of the tribes refused to pay zakat. These are called the Ridda, battles of Ridda, the disputes that came about, wars of Ridda, where the first Khalifa, he is now not being recognized by many tribes. They're refusing to pay zakat. Now, when it comes to money, you need money to survive as a government. That which fills the Baitul Mal is not coming. What are you going to do? People say, we're not paying you. That's it. We don't consider you to be the legitimate successor of Rasulullah. So we're not going to give you this zakat of ours. Zakat was the main income of Muslim Ummah at the time. They're already taking fadak because it was producing a lot of money. Now they needed this zakat as well. These are refusing to pay. And then, of course, a lot of atrocities are committed at that time. Malik ibn Nuwaira, Khalid ibn Walid, his actions are well documented in the history. Of course, they were brushed under the carpet by saying what? Khalid ibn Walid practiced ijtihad. He committed a sin. He made a mistake. But he did ijtihad. And the rule of ijtihad is what? Even when you make a mistake, Allah still grants you 1 thawab. When you get it right, Allah gives you 2 thawabs. So in other words, they're saying that amal of Khalid ibn Walid, of killing Malik ibn Nuwaira, and na'udhu billah, performing that amal with his widow, it was all act of ijtihad, and Allah will give him reward for that, na'udhu billah. So here you understand, this is how they had to, cover up for many of these things. Ridda wars took place. Many of them declined to pay. In fact, second Khalifa disputed with the first Khalifa in this regard. He reminded him, he said, كَيْفَ تُقَاتِلُ النَّاسِ وَقَدْ قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. How are you going to fight the people regarding whom Rasulullah has said, مَنْ قَالَ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ عَصِمَ مِنِّي مَالُهُ وَنَفْسُهُ إِلَّا بِحَقِّهِ. How are you going to fight with the people for whom Rasulullah has said, anyone who says La ilaha illallah, their mal and their nafs is protected. I am zamin of their mal and their nafs and their souls. How are you going to fight with them? So right away, of course, Khalifa Awwal had the authority to go ahead and execute the plans. Number 4, Battle of Jamal. And of course, you can throw in Battle of Siffin in there as well. That were a major dispute. What was the dispute about? Dispute was about the killing of third Khalifa. There was a dispute over it. And the handling of the killers of third Khalifa by the next Khalifatul Muslimin, which is Amir al-Mu'mineen. They disputed that Imam Ali did not do enough after coming into power to hold the people who were responsible for killing Uthman ibn Affan. He did not hold them accountable. And therefore, a battalion, an army was raised. Talha and Zubair were not enough of a power to raise an army on their own. They needed a stronger voice. So they riled up who? Mu'mineen. She, according to the Tawarikh, riled up a big army along with her, where they meet in Basra and other places where this battle takes place. A lot of Muslimin were killed in it, bi'nahaq. And of course, Amir al-Mu'mineen ended the war and he returned al-Mu'mineen back. Here, we find that this was a dispute, a major dispute amongst the Muslimin. And how do you resolve this? Again, you say, well, Amir al-Mu'mineen is Khalifatul Muslimin. He's on haqq. All of them agree, by the way. None of them disagree the fact that Amir al-Mu'mineen was on haqq. But then there's this same concept of ijtihad that comes into play to go ahead and protect al-Mu'mineen, Talha and Zubair. While they made mistakes. Same thing in Siffin, the person stood against Imam Ali, he made a mistake. But because it was khata ijtihadi, it was a ijtihadi mistake for them, therefore they will be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their khata that they had made. Allahu Akbar. So here there's a debate that took place between Sheikh Mufid and Qazi Abdul Jabbar Mu'tazili. Qazi Abdul Jabbar Mu'tazili was Mu'tazili were actually, very close to the Shia Aqaid anyway. And that's why you have Shar ibn Abil Hadid, Ibn Abil Hadid, the Mu'tazili, who did the biggest Shar of Nahj al-Balagha. He's Mu'tazili. He's very close to the Aqaid of Shia. But still they are from Ahl Sunnah. So there was this debate that took place between Qazi Abdul Jabbar Mu'tazili and Sheikh Mufid. They say this is the time when Sheikh Mufid got his title Al-Mufid, meaning the beneficial one, or the one who's beneficial. What happened was, they were sitting, and Sheikh Mufid asked him a question, what do you consider the event of Ghadir? He said, true. He said, what do you make of Man kuntu Maula fa'ada aliyun Maula? He said, true. He said, what do you make of the word Maula, what it means? He said, meaning is same as master and the leader. Just like Rasulullah was the master and the leader. He said, then what is the dispute? Why are you disputing over the imamat of Imam Ali after Rasulullah? He said, the imamat of Rasulullah, or imamat of Imam Ali after Rasulullah, is riwayat, but the khilafat of Abu Bakr is dirayat. What's the difference between the two? Riwayat is a narration. Dirayat is something which is achieved with yaqeen and certainty. He said that was a riwayat that took place in Ghadir. But who became the Khalifatul Muslimin? The first Khalifa. So we have to go by what happened. So dirayat, certainty, supersedes who? Riwayat. Sheikh Mufi said, fine. Make sure you follow this rule all along. He said, yes, this rule is there. Musallam. Imam, then Sheikh Mufid asked him, what do you say about Rasulullah's call regarding Ali? Harbuka harbi wa silmuka silmi. That, O Ali, whoever fights you, it is as if they have fought me. And whoever makes peace with you is as if they have made peace with me. You read that in? Read that in Hadith Kisa as well. Silmuka silmi. Qazi Abdul Jabbar Mu'tazili said, yes, this is true. Whoever fights against Ali is as if they have fought against Rasulullah. And whoever makes peace against Ali is as if they have made peace with Rasulullah. He mentioned that. Right away, Qazi was asked, then what do you say about the acts of Mu'mineen and Amir Sham and Talha and Zubair? They said, well, they all committed a mistake, but they all repented. Sheikh Muhammad said, hold on a second. Their repentance, is it a riwayat or a dirayat? There's a riwayat that they all repented. He said, did the battle take place or not? Yes, battle did take place. Is it a riwayat or a dirayat? He said, battle is a dirayat. He said, you just made a formula a moment ago that riwayat cannot be over dirayat. Why are you changing your formula over here when Amir al-Mu'mineen, his khilafat was musallam and he was fought against? How can these people get a pass then? Salawat beji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad param. So here we see that this is again a dispute that led to, of course, the Battle of Siffin, and Battle of Siffin then led to Khawarij and the Shahadat of Amir al-Mu'minin. So there was no resolve when that dispute came about. Now, I have two more disputes to talk about, inshallah. I'll be able to get to at least one of them tonight. Third one is in the time of Ghaibat of Imam. And this is now only focusing on our madhab Ahl Tashayyu. Do we not have disputes and differences? We do. But do they become a means of contention where we go in opposite way? Or we're supposed to resolve these moments by going along because we believe in the same Imam? That should be the case. So I'll give you a few examples. In the time of the Ghaibat of Imam, one of the areas of contention is the biggest, moon sighting, right? Within one city you have multiple Eid that take place. Multiple days upon which you begin those very important months. You can care less about all the other months in the entire calendar year. When it comes to Muharram, you want to make sure that you're all aligned. Because you don't want to be commemorating Ashura today and the other party commemorating Ashura tomorrow, for example. When it comes to Ramadan, you want to be on the same page. When it comes to Eid, especially Maulana, for our children, what kind of message are we giving them, right? So the dispute is there regarding the fatwa of different maraja. One believes that you can use the telescope. Other says, no, you cannot use the telescope. One says the nighttime that is shared is okay. The other says, no, nighttime is no authority. It has to be a very close vicinity, which is called to be your horizon. Differences that arise, disputes that are there in the absence of Imam of our time. Another matter, I'll skip some of these as they're not, I don't have time to get into them. Friday prayer. In the time of the Ghaibat of Imam, it's a disputed masala. Is it wajib? Is it wajib aini? Or is it wajib ikhtiyari? Or is it not wajib at all? All these different views exist. Some believe that it is wajib, but it's a wajib which is ikhtiyari, meaning you have a choice. Whether you pray Jum'ah or you offer Zuhr. But fadilat is with what? Salatul Jum'ah. Some say, well, even if you do offer Jum'ah, you still have to pray Zuhr. Min bab ihtiyat. Some say, well, the wujub of Jum'ah is not wazeh in the absence of Imam. All of these disputed masail regarding namaz Jum'ah exist, and therefore this should not be a means of what? Disunity amongst Ahl Tashayyu. When it comes to the taharat of Ahl Kitab and non-Ahl Kitab, there's a big discussion, especially to us, because we live in a part of the world where we are dealing with these people. There's some maraje, they say, well, it is okay. They're all pak, they're all tahir. The likes of Ayatul Makarim, for example, but some are very strict. They say, no. Aside from Ahl Kitab, everyone else is inherently najis. And therefore all the rules of najasat apply to them. When it comes to the congregational prayer behind a non-Shia, what do we have to do? Is our salat okay? Do we have to pray and read everything by ourselves? What happens when we go to Makkah and Medina? When we pray on the carpet, is it okay for us to pray without the turba, or we have to use the turba? Some say, min bab ittihad, you don't need to use the turbat. Sajda is not needed. But majority of the Maharajas say, no. You still need to put your forehead on upon which that is acceptable as far as normal circumstances are concerned. So this is a matter of dispute that exists. And the last dispute, I'm bringing you closer and closer, is a dispute that we find sometimes within our families. This is something which I had promised 2 nights ago and I was not able to get to. That disunity that arises from within a household, in the marital circles, between married couples. Now there are many discussions and seminars. This is a discussion for a seminar actually. May not be a befitting discussion for a Majlis Aza. But I'll highlight very quickly, moving on to, inshallah, the Masaib after that. There are 2 main factors of dispute that happen within the family structure. One is the internal, and number 2 is the external. I'll skip the internal matters, because there are sometimes these internal matters are something which cannot be resolved. there's lack of communication is one of them. Lack of trust is one of them. When these things arise, it's very difficult to convince them to get back on track, and reconciliation becomes that much very difficult. But there are certain external factors that cause discord and disunity amongst the married couple that are easily avoided. I'm just going to highlight, and that will just serve as a means of avoiding them. Number one, interference from relatives and in-laws. One of the leading cause of dispute between husband and wife, based on the ulama's, scholars' survey, consensus, is the interference that happens from the family circle, the well-wishers, who want good for you. But because they want good for you, they sometimes go to the extent where they end up causing more damage than any good. Therefore, a boundary has to be set. Again, the details of this headline could only be given in a seminar and not in a majlis. Number two, sometimes these are financial pressures that come about. Either husband or the wife or both of them put themselves into debts or in certain places where it's unable for them to come out of it. And when that uncertainty lies above them, there's the issue of, for example, living style, healthy living style. They're unable to afford certain things. And when those uncertainties come about, it leads to dispute, and then it leads to divorce, unfortunately. Work-related stress, working hard. Long working hours that result into mood changes, that results into how you behave with one another, and that results into how we sometimes show lack of respect. Although we don't mean lack of respect. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bhai, baith jaye. Kya khair hai? थोड़ा सा आप लोग आगे आ जाइए, आगे आ जाइए थोड़ा सा. सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद. बच्चों को पहले से ले जाए ना बीच में. एक और लाउड सलवात पे. बच्चों को मजलिस सुनने देते क्या रहता? आई एम श्योर दे अंडरस्टैंड. सल्लु अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद. Grabbed all the kids and left. They have to worry about these things tomorrow when they get married. Social media, negative friendship, culture and family expectations, major life transitions, moving from one state to another, and community and societal pressures. Everything these days is on social media, and the competition, unnecessary competition that happens, and sometimes religious incompatibility. All of these sometimes result, sometimes, not saying always, there are exceptional examples of all of these things existing while people are able to make these disputes go away. But this was just a highlight. Inshallah, if there's time, I will talk about these later on as I have explanation regarding all of this, and even in a seminar format so that there's more time for Q&A regarding that. This is something which is need of the society, unfortunately. While we sit here on this Farshaza, our main objective, of course, is to talk about the examples of Ahlul Bayt. Our objective is to, of course, mourn and do girya for Ahlul Bayt, and that is something which we all have gathered over here. But while this is the only opportunity when we get public to come to Farshaza, that throughout the year, not many people, aside from those who are regulars, not everybody is able to come here. And when they don't come on regular basis, these instructions are not given. We have lost the aptitude of reading, lost the appetite of reading. We don't read anymore, although reading material is all out there. We only rely on the lectures and the majalis. And when you're only relying on the lectures and majalis, and even those lectures and majalis, I'm only providing you with the things which are repetitive, but of course are not beneficial to you, then of course I at least believe that I have done disservice to Mimbar-e Hussaini. So therefore, these are the issues that our communities are facing. Inshallah, it is very less over here, it's not as much over here, but bigger communities, these things are there. We got to be very careful. We got to get involved into the lives of our children. You know, sometimes the gap between the immigrant parents and the children born and raised over here, that results into, you know, parents not looking into and not getting involved in the children's life, and especially when it comes to making those important decisions. You know, the child consulted you when they wanted to buy their first bike. Child consulted you when they wanted to buy something which was, you know, very nominal. But when it comes to the important matter of getting married, Maulana, bachcho ki apni marzi hai, whatever they want to do. Right away, you back out. While the riwayat tell us the other way around. It says, no, the responsibilities, min haqqil walade ila walideh, the responsibility of parents, especially the father in the life of their child, is what? Number one, ay yuhassin ismahu, give him a good name. Wa ay yuallimuhu al-kitab, and teach him the book, meaning give him the knowledge of deen. And number three, yuzavvijuhu idha balagh, get him married when he is baligh, for example. These are amongst the huquq that Prophet of Islam has mentioned. These are bare minimum, you know, giving a good name. Even to that, we do a very bad job nowadays, where some of these names come about. Then providing them with the knowledge. Maulana, we sent them to the best of the university. Were you able to give them ulum deen? Were you able to teach them deeni talimat that is needed for their tarbiyat and for their future as well? That's where we lacked. And when it came to them getting married, our role was bare minimum. We were just mainly, I've seen, invited as any other guest to our children's marriages and weddings, and we had no say, none whatsoever, in what was going on those weddings. There was, from the very beginning, you know, it may have started with hadith-e-kisa, but then it transitioned into the music, and then it transitioned into a dance party, then it transitioned into, you know, na-mehram mingling with one another, then it transitioned into all other lahawiyat and laghwiyat, which are, of course, imagine the zuhur of Imam happens while you are sitting in such a gathering. How will you be responding to such a scenario? Well, some people say it's only one day in their life, let them enjoy, let them have their moment, and then inshallah they'll do tawbah and they'll go back to, you know, inshallah practicing. No, this is where we see, you know, how unfortunate it is that you have this scene which is set up where music is blasting in front of and then they expect the ulama to come as well. Maulana, will you be coming to the marriage, wedding, inshallah? So, marhum, my father asked this family, should we come? He said, yes, Maulana, without you, you know, you're our elders. No, should we come? Meaning it will be appropriate for us to sit over there? Let me check, Maulana. There will be DJ, there will be music. So, sorry, Maulana, you shouldn't. When your Pesh Imam cannot come to your wedding, how can the Imam of your time will come to your wedding? So understand this concept, where sometimes we get away because we live in a society where some of these things should be okay, it's fine, because kids are young and they'll eventually learn, and this is where the tarbiyat process begins. If you're able to do something right now, they will be able to do the same thing when it comes to their children as well. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. We look at the life of Abul Fazl Abbas. He was married to Lubaba. You know, a blessed marriage that was as well. She was someone, they had two kids. One was known as Fadl, and the other one was known as Ubaidullah. Because of the first child, Fadl, our Hazrat Abbas was known as Abul Fadl Abbas. And he is someone who is a possessor of many traits and accolades. He is given the title, because of his apparent beauty, Qamar Bani Hashim. He is given his title of Babul Hawaij because of his sacrifice. He is given the title of Sipah Salar of Imam Hussein and Saqai Sakina for his role in Karbala. These are different titles of Hazrat Abbas. Someone whom Imam Ali ﷺ made an effort. He made sure that he married into a family. Again, look at the roots. Again, I don't have time. I'm already into Masaib. Imams choosing a spouse for a specific reason. And the reason was laid out for Abul Fadl Abbas. And that was on the day when Imam Ali was giving wasiyat. He brought Abul Fadl Abbas and he placed his hand in the hand of Imam Hussain. While he had placed everyone's hand in the hand of Imam Hassan, he did this with Imam Hussain and Hazrat Abbas. And he said and gave a wasiyat to Abbas. He said, "Oh Abbas, know this, you are my son and Hussain is son of Rasulullah. As long as you are alive, make sure nothing happens to Hussain." That vow was made. I wish I had time to go in the fadail of Abul Fadl Abbas. 14 years that he spends with his father. The journey in which he saw the battles of Siffin, the other battles that he took part in, and learned from the Jawhar and the Bahadri of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. But of course, Abul Fadl Abbas, whose birth is in the year 26 after Hijrah, he is 34 to 35 years old in the battlefield of Karbala. लेकिन एक बात मुसल्लम थी अब्बास के वजूद से कि जब तक अब्बास ज़िंदा थे बीबियों को कोई परेशानी न थी, किसी किस्म का खौफ, कोई हरास न था. आयत कुरान है वलनब्लुवन्नकुम बिशैइन मिनल खौफि वल जू'i व नक़्सिम मिनल अम्वालि वल अनफुसि वस्समरात. बेशक हम तुम्हारा इम्तहान लेंगे भूख के ज़रिए, खौफ के ज़रिए. करबला में भूख भी है. 7 मुहर्रम के बाद से खाना और पानी बंद है, लेकिन खौफ व हरास अभी नहीं है. क्यों? अब्बास ज़िंदा हैं. बीबियां आराम से रात में सो सकती हैं. क्यों? पहरा देने के लिए अबुल फजल अब्बास मौजूद है. ये अब्बास का तरीक़ा था. आप देखिए जिस तरीके से आप तारीख़ पढ़ते हैं, एक एक करके हज़रत अब्बास ने इमाम हुसैन का जो साथ दिया है लाशों को उठाने में, इमाम हुसैन को वो परेशानी ना लाहक हुई. लेकिन एक वक्त वो आता है सारे मसाइब छोड़ते हुए, उस मसाइब की तरफ आता हूँ जिसके लिए आप सुनने के लिए बेचैन हैं. एक दफ़ा इमाम हुसैन के पास अब्बास आते हैं और आके कहते हैं, मौला अब सब जा चुके, मुझको भी इजाज़त दीजिए. इमाम ने कहा, अब्बास तुम तो साहिब लिवा हो, तुम तो सिपाही सालार हो, मैं तुमको जाने की कैसे इजाज़त दे दूँ. अब्बास का जवाब सुनेंगे, मौला वो सिपा कहाँ रही जिसका मैं सालार हूँ. एक दफ़ा पलट के तो देखिए. इमाम ने पलट के देखा तो सिर्फ अब्बास खड़े हैं, सब जाम शहादत नोश फरमा चुके हैं. अब इमाम हुसैन किस तरीके से अब्बास को रोकते, मक्तल में जाने नहीं दे सकते. अब्बास अगर मक्तल में चले गए तो नक्शा उलट जाएगा. इस मकसद के लिए आए न थे करबला में, शहादत मकसद था यहाँ पे. इमाम हुसैन ने कहा है, अब्बास अगर जाना ही चाहते हो ना तो बस एक काम कर दो. ये अलातश की आवाज़ें बुलंद हो रही हैं, ये अलातश की आवाज़ें बुलंद हो रही हैं, ज़रा इन बच्चों के लिए पानी का बंदोबस्त कर दो. अब्बास समझ गए हुसैन क्या चाहते हैं. अब्बास ने इताअत की. यहाँ समझ में आता है इताअत किसे कहते हैं. आपके पास कुव्वत भी है, ताकत भी है, बहादुरी भी है, जोश भी है और दिल में बदला लेने की उम्मीद भी है. सब के सब आपके घर वाले शहीद कर दिए जा चुके हैं, आपके दोस्तों को शहीद कर दिया जा चुका है. अब आपके पास वो हिम्मत भी है कि आप सबका बदला अकेले ले सकते हो. लेकिन उसके बावजूद मुती मौला ऐसे हैं, इमाम की इताअत ऐसे अफजल है कि इधर इमाम ने कहा नहीं वहां नहीं जाना, पानी लेने जाना है. अब्बास ने सब कुछ छोड़ दिया. आते हैं मशकीज़ा मांगा आपने, जनाब सकीना ने मशकीज़ा ला के दिया और तमाम बच्चों को साथ खड़ा किया. कहा देखो मेरे अम्मू जब भी कोई वादा करते हैं ना तो बावफा है, हमेशा वादे को وفا کرتے ہیں، ننھے ننھے ہاتھوں میں کوزے دیے، ابھی پانی لے کے آتے ہی ہوں گے۔ حضرت عباس نے ہاتھ میں علم اٹھایا، ہاتھ میں مشکیزہ لیا، گھوڑے پہ سوار ہوئے۔ وہ جو لوگ کہتے ہیں عباس نے کوئی جنگ نہ کی، کیسے انہوں نے فرات کو چھڑایا ہوگا؟ ارے 4000 سپاہی موجود تھے، عباس نے پشتوں کے پشتوں یاد دلا دیے، ادھر سے ادھر ہو گئی فوج، عباس تنہا کھڑے ہیں فرات کے اوپر قبضہ کر کے، پانی بھرا مشکیزے میں، اپنے گھوڑے کو بھی آزاد کیا، جا تو بھی پیاسا ہے، تو بھی اپنی پیاس بجھا لے۔ لیکن بے زبان جانور نے ایک دفعہ مقتل کا رخ کیا ہوگا، ارے میرے مولا حسین کا راہوار پیاسا ہے، میں کیسے پیاس کو بجھا لوں؟ عباس نے پانی نہ پیا، نہ ہی گھوڑے نے پانی پیا۔ عباس نے مشکیزے کو بھرا، واپس چلے ہیں، بس اب ایک ہی مقصد ہے عباس کا، کسی طریقے سے یہ پانی بچوں تک پہنچ جائے۔ بنو امیہ کا ایک ہی مقصد ہے، پانی ہر صورت میں خیمہ گاہ نہ پہنچنے پائے، ایک قطرہ بھی پہنچا نا تو ہماری شکست ہے، اور اگر قطرہ پہنچ گیا تو ہماری شکست موجود ہے۔ ایک دفعہ عباس چلتے ہیں، پانی کو بھی محافظ ہے، ہاتھ میں علم بھی ہے، گھوڑے پہ سوار بھی ہے۔ جو لوگ کربلا جا چکے ہیں وہ جانتے ہیں کہ کس طریقے سے عباس آئے۔ ایک وہ مقام آتا ہے عباس کی زری کے بالکل پشت پہ، جہاں پہ کف ایمن گرا عباس کا، اس سے پہلے کف ایسر گرا عباس کا۔ ایک لعین نے چھپ کے دور سے ایک ایسا حملہ کیا کہ عباس کا دایاں بازو کٹ گرا۔ جیسے ہی دایاں بازو کٹنا تھا، عباس نے مشکیزے کو دوسرے ہاتھ میں لیا، علم ڈگمگانے لگا، سلامت رہے علم اٹھانے والے، عباس کا علم اٹھانے والے جو علم کو ڈگمگانے نہیں دیتے ہیں۔ ایک لعین نے دائیں جانب سے حملہ کیا، عباس کا دایاں بازو بھی کٹ گرا۔ اب کس طریقے سے مشکیزے کو سنبھالا، بس آپ تصور کیجئے، میں پڑھتا جاتا ہوں، مشکیزے کے اوپر اپنے جسم کو ڈھال بنا لیا، کہیں پانی نہ گر جائے۔ اسی اثنا میں ایک ایسا تیر آگے لگا جو آگے پیوست ہوا مشکیزے میں، سارا پانی بہ گیا، ادھر پانی کا بہنا تھا۔ عباس کی آس ٹوٹ گئی، ارے اب میں جا کے کیا کروں گا؟ سکینہ منتظر ہے، بچے کوزے لیے کھڑے ہیں۔ اجرکم اللہ، خدا کسی غم میں نہ رلائے سوائے غم آل محمد کے۔ بس ابھی اسی تذبذب میں تھے کہ ایک ایسا تیر آ کے پیشانی میں پیوست ہوا کہ عباس کی آنکھوں کے سامنے اندھیرا آ گیا۔ اپنے گھوڑے پہ ڈگمگائے، زمین سے زمین کی طرف جیسے ہی آئے عباس، ایک دفعہ گرے ہوں گے۔ سوچئے جب بھی کوئی گھڑ سوار گرتا تھا اپنے ہاتھوں کے بل پہ گرتا تھا، عباس کے تو شانے کٹ چکے تھے۔ اجرکم اللہ، سر کے بل، ماتھے کے بل زمین پہ گرے۔ عباس نے دوسروں کی طرح سے امام حسین کو تکلیف نہ دینی چاہیے، یہ نہیں کہا کہ ادرکنی، مولا میری مدد کو آئی ہے، بس آخری سلام پہنچایا، مولا میرا آخری سلام قبول کیجئے۔ حسین نے یہ سننا تھا، کمر پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے کھڑے ہوئے، الان انکسر ظہری، قلت ہیلتی، ارے میری کمر ٹوٹ گئی، تاریخ آوشیں ختم ہو گئی۔ بس حسین پہنچے، آخری جملہ زحمت تمام، عباس کے سر کو اپنے زانوں پہ رکھا، ایک دفعہ خون کو ہٹایا، گفتگو کی، بھائی بھائی سے گفتگو کر رہا ہے۔ عباس نے وصیت کی، مولا میرے لاشے کو خیمہ گاہ نہ لے کے جائیے گا، میں نہیں دکھا سکتا یہ چہرہ کہ میں ان کے لیے پانی نہ لا پایا۔ عباس مان لی تمہاری بات، اب گریہ مت کرو، تھوڑی دیر میں ساقی کوثر کے پاس ہو، مولا میرا گریہ کرنے کا مقصد یہ ہے، جب میں زمین پہ آیا تو آپ میری بالی پہ پہنچے، ابھی تھوڑی دیر میں آپ زمین پہ آئیں گے، ارے کون ہوگا حسین کے ساتھ؟ یا عباس